So tonight I am going to a concert for a couple of bands that were around 40 years ago and I used to see them. I have a story about one of these bands. So I'm going to go see X and I'm going to go see the Psychedelic Furs. Now these are bands from my youth and I'm really looking forward to that. And I came into the city early. I was hanging out with a friend in North Beach and we were kicking around and I was going to meet another friend here for the show, but he bailed on me. So I'm going to be going to this show solo. Now, does going solo bother me? If I'm completely and totally honest with you guys, it feels a little bit odd. I'm not necessarily a solo guy, but I love music. It's something that since I was very, very young has been super important to me. And whenever I go see bands, I get lost in that moment. Interestingly enough, X, if you're old enough to remember, was kind of like this punk band. And I'm worried that there might be some moshing going on down in front when they're playing. But then I'm thinking, well, if the people going are my age, the moshing is going to be pretty low key. When I was 20 years old and I was in college, X came through our college town and it was a small little town and not many things actually came through that town and we were really excited. Well, it turns out they were playing in a bar and I wasn't 21 nor were my roommates, so we couldn't get in. Well, we did get in. We snuck through the kitchen and we were up front watching the show for a while, mind you. And then all of a sudden, some guy pointed at us and said, "Those guys snuck in, go get them." And with that, me and my friends, we scattered. And I ran out through the kitchen and down the alley. And as I'm running down the alley, I think I'm home free. And around the corner comes the black and white. The lights are flashing and they got me. Hands behind my back. And when I was in there, in the drunk tank, in jail, this guy kind of comes up to me and he conspiratorially kind of sides up next to me and is like, "Hey, I smuggled in some smokes. You want one?" Now, at this point in my life, I don't think I had ever had a cigarette, but I was kind of scared. I was in jail, and at the time, it was a little freaky. So, of course, I said, "Yeah, sure, I'll have one." And with that, I kind of took a puff. He lit it up for me, and I freaking coughed my lungs out. When I see a band from my youth, I mean, it does make me feel a little bit younger. It kind of brings me back to emotions and memories and feelings that I had at the time I was really into those bands. I did have this experience about 15 years ago when I went to a favorite artist of mine, Joe Jackson, and I went and saw him at a club here in San Francisco. And as I'm waiting for him to come on, I'm looking around at the people, and I'm like, wow, look at all these old people. What are these old people doing here? And then I thought, oh, wait, that's me. And maybe that was the first time when it really sunk in that I was getting older. If you do decide to go see a band that you used to see in your youth, be prepared. Be prepared that the musicians who are playing, well, they're 40 years older too. These guys are my age and they're out here doing this. And maybe that brings up a thing for me. It's like, am I trying to be young by going to see these bands? And I suppose there is a certain part of me that does make me feel younger, but it really doesn't change the fact of who I am and what my body's doing. That doesn't go away because I go see a band. But what is important to me, what I really enjoy about this, is it is something that's a little bit out of my comfort zone. It's a little bit different. And I find the more I do things that are kind of outside of my comfort zone, the more I'm able to do the next thing that's outside of my comfort zone. All right, that was a frickin' blast. I had the best time, and being by myself, it actually made moving around in the crowd a little bit easier, so that worked out really well. And the crowd was super diverse. There were people, of course, my age, and then there were people younger, and even a few people a little bit older. So those two bands, they brought people out of the woodwork. And I guess if I take anything away from this, the thing that I want to take away is going to see live music, old bands, new bands, any bands, is something that really energizes me. And I'm going to do it as long as I possibly can because it's just so much damn fun.